You're listening to Make Some Noise podcast Minisode number 457. Welcome to Make Some Noise podcast, your guide for strategies, tools, and insight to empower yourself. I'm your host, Andrea Owen, global speaker, entrepreneur, life coach since 2007, and author of 3 books that have been translated into 18 languages and are available in 22 countries. Each week, I'll bring you a guest or a lesson that will help you maximize unshakable confidence, master resilience, and make some noise in your life. You ready? Let's go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the podcast, a Minisode. I hope that you are well, and I hope that your summer is going fantastic so far. We are rounding out the end of our relationships theme. We're moving into, what are we moving into? Spirituality and creativity. I'm excited about that. I've got an eclectic bunch coming for you, a motley crew, if you will. But as we're closing out relationships, I wanted to dive in a little bit around something that I've mentioned on the podcast probably many, many times, partly because this particular work has helped me so much in my personal life, in my relationship with my husband, I should say, and because I just admire John Gottman's work so much, John and Julie Gottman, his wife. I think it's brilliant. He has decades of experience, and he is the person who is I guess he's kind of famous for this. He is able to, by watching an interaction with a couple, I believe he watches an interaction that is a topic that the couple kind of goes around and around about, like, the one thing that you just snag and you can't come to a conclusion about, you find yourself arguing about. He watches that interaction and how the couple talks to each other and how they behave towards each other and their body language and things like that. And he can predict whether the relationship will work or not. And so to simplify what he actually looks for, a long time ago, he created what he calls the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. And they are criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. And so I am going to summarize an article that I found on Gottman.com. This is by a brilliant human being named Ellie Lastisa. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. Is it Lastisa? I think it's Lastisa. My apologies, Ellie, if you're listening to this and I pronounced your name incorrectly. I'm going to link to this particular article as well as another one that she links to where they talk about the antidotes for the Four Horsemen. It's not just like, here's the problem, good luck with life, which I can't stand. It's here's the problem and here's the antidotes. Here's how to fix it. So let's start with criticism. It's interesting. The way that she explains it in here is a little bit different than what I thought criticism was, what I thought he was referring to criticism was. Turns out I'm actually pleased because what I do is complaining, according to this article, not criticize. So Ellie talks about criticizing your partner is a little bit different than offering a critique or complaining about something. So like a complaint might be like, say your partner is like an hour late coming home from work, and previously this has bothered you and you had always asked, like, can you just send me a text or call me if you are running late, just to let me know. And say it happens and they didn't call or text, and they come home and you said, I was mildly freaking out when you were running late and you didn't call. I thought we had agreed that you would do that we agreed that we would do that for each other. That's a complaint. A criticism would sound like this, and I'm quoting what her example here. She says, you never think about how your behavior is affecting other people. I don't believe you are that forgetful. You're just selfish. You never think of others. You never think of me. So that is criticism. You see how they're different? And of course, like, I was being a little bit dramatic when I read the second example, had a little bit more of a charge to it. But she goes on to say that I think everyone criticizes in that manner from time to time, especially if you're in a place of being very scared or hurt or extremely frustrated. But part of her point here is that you're not doomed if you use criticism in your relationship or your partner uses criticism towards you. It's that if it becomes pervasive, it can actually turn into a pattern, and that turns into contempt, which is the second horseman, which is like this. Contempt is partly body language. So it's eye rolling. It is, crossing your arms over your chest with a big sigh. It's mockery. It's making fun of them with, being harshly passive aggressive, sarcastic, ridicule, name calling, mimicking them, scoffing, disrespect. It's just being mean. It's being mean, being a total asshole. And what she says, and this, I think, sentence really sums it up. She says, the target of contempt is made to feel despised and worthless. And let me tell you something. I will admit, in my former relationship to my ex-husband, I used contempt when I was at my wit's end, when I was so desperate to have some kind of behavior that would make me feel like I had some kind of power and control over him. I would use contempt. I am ashamed to admit it, but I was in such a place of ill communication, of just not grasping at straws, not knowing how to behave. And Gottman's research shows that couples who are contemptuous of each other are more likely to not only have a terrible relationship, but more likely to have infectious illnesses, colds, flus, things like that. So it's not good for your immune system. But contempt is the single greatest predictor of divorce. It's contempt. I thought it was stonewalling, but it's not. It's contempt, which doesn't surprise me. And I can think of some couples. I can think of one couple I know. They've been married for decades. They're a little older than me, and there's contempt by one of the partners, and it's just painful to watch. We all know it when we see it. And so it's not surprised that I'm not married to that person anymore. Not surprising at all. Shopify's already taken the cash register online, helping millions sell billions around the world. But did you know that Shopify can do the same thing at your retail store? Give your point of sale system a serious upgrade with Shopify. With Shopify, you get a powerhouse selling partner that effortlessly unites your in-person and online sales into one source of truth. Track every sale across your business in one place and know exactly what's in stock. Connect with customers inline and online. Shopify helps you drive store traffic with plug-and-play tools built for marketing campaigns from TikTok to Instagram and beyond. Get hardware that fits your business. Take payments by smartphone, transform your tablet into a point of sale system, or use Shopify's POS Go mobile device for a battle-tested solution. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/noise, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/noise to take your retail business to the next level today. Shopify.com/noise. Today's podcast is sponsored by MIDI Health. Ladies, are you over 40 like me and dealing with hot flashes, insomnia, brain fog, moodiness, some vaginal dryness, or weight gain? Don't just accept it as part of aging. These symptoms are often linked to hormonal changes during perimenopause and menopause. At MIDI Health, they get it. Their experts know what you're going through and how to help. MIDI clinicians are menopause specialists offering safe, effective, FDA-approved solutions. And guess what? MIDI care is covered by insurance. So stop pushing through it alone. Schedule a virtual visit and dive deep into your unique symptoms and health background. You'll walk away feeling heard and with a plan to start feeling better. Visit MIDI Health today and reclaim your well-being. You deserve to feel great. Book your virtual visit today at joinmidi.com. That's joinmidi.com. Joinmidi.com. The third one is defensiveness. It is typically a response to criticism. This was my ex-husband's MO. And it typically happens when the person feels like they are unjustly accused. They're looking for excuses. They play the innocent victim so that they can just kind of get out of the situation so their partner will leave them alone. And often they don't take responsibility, like no responsibility at all. So here's the example that she gives. So one partner says, "Did you call Betty and Ralph to let them know we're not coming to the party tonight? Like you told me you were going to call them this morning." And the partner says, "I was just too busy today. As a matter of fact, you know just how busy my schedule is. Why didn't you just do it?" So there's actually two things happening in this example. So the partner is making an excuse and responding defensively, but they're also reversing the blame. They're like putting the blame on the other person. I can't freaking stand that. I can't stand that. But not only there are some particular teenage children that I know of that will remain unnamed that do this. And I will point that out so fast. It's like, no, this isn't my fault. You need to take some responsibility. How would we take responsibility for that? Okay, so what it might sound like instead of that defensive response, an example is, "Oops, I completely forgot. I spaced. I should have asked you this morning to do it because I knew my day was back to back and it was packed. That's my fault. Let me stop right now and call them immediately." So, of course, you're going to forget things. Like, of course, you're going to want to defend yourself if you have. Sometimes we have noble excuses, right? But when we are putting the blame on the other person, when we're constantly coming up with excuses, when we are almost like telling the other person what they want to hear, that can get involved too. It doesn't work. So Ellie says, defensiveness will not only escalate the conflict if the critical spouse or partner does not back down or apologize. This is because defensiveness is really a way of blaming your partner, and it won't allow for healthy conflict management. Yikes. All right. And the last one is stonewalling, which is usually a response to contempt. And I would argue it's also probably a response to criticism as well. Stonewalling occurs when the partner completely shuts down from the conversation. They will either stop responding to their partner, they will walk away, they will get in the car and drive off, leave the room, rather than talking it out. And, they turn away from their partner instead of turning towards. And they aren't aggressive or hostile or anything like that. They just are pretty much like, I'm out, and they will walk away. So Gottman talks about something called physiologically flooded, which is so fascinating to me. And I've mentioned it a few times here on the podcast. It's when you are in whether it's an uncomfortable conversation or a heated argument or a full-on screaming match, when your heart rate gets above, I believe it's 100 or something. It's not extraordinarily high, but the flooding means that the blood is rushing away to our vital organs, muscles, and away from our brain, especially the part of our brain that is responsible for logical thinking, for speech, etc. And this is why when we are in a confrontation or something like that, like maybe at work or something, an hour later, we think of all the best comebacks, all of the best responses to say that are smart and witty and all of the things that we wish we would have thought of. The reason is that we couldn't do it when we were in the moment because of physiological flooding. And this is why stonewalling happens, because the person is flooded and they just have to walk away. And it's also probably they might have some trauma, maybe some childhood trauma that they are triggered and they just need to walk away. And so for this one, I am going to talk to you about what the antidote is. And please go to the show notes and click on the link for the second article where she talks about some really practical advice of how to not do these Four Horsemen, not do these behaviors anymore. But the one about stonewalling is to, if you are the stonewaller, is to articulate it and say, I am too angry, or I am too overwhelmed, or whatever it is that you're feeling, to continue to have this conversation. I love you and I want to continue this. I just cannot do it right in this moment. I'm going to take, fill in the blank, however long you need. I'm going to take 30 minutes and we'll come back to it. Or can we come back to it later on tonight? The key really is to have enough respect for your partner and for your relationship to come back to the conversation. This is not an out for you to just not be able to return. And when you are calm, when you have gathered your thoughts, if you have to make bullet points, if you have to write out a script, if you have to meditate, whatever it is that you need to do, then you can go back and have the conversation when you're in a place to do so. So I hope that was helpful. The little explanation, because I mention it all the time. And if you don't know now, you know. And again, the link to both the article that I was summarizing as well as the antidotes are going to be in the show notes. I'm also going to put a link there's a link on the Gottman website about being physiologically flooded, which again, I find so interesting, so interesting. Yay for science. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. Hey, if you are interested in the Daring Way retreat, there is one room left that is a solo room. The rest of the rooms left are going to be in the bunk room. Maybe you love that. Maybe you love to have it feel like summer camp. But shout out again to Jackie at the Orlando airport. I mentioned that in a couple episodes ago. I was buying peanut M&Ms and this woman comes up to me and says, "Are you Andrea Owen?" And I was like, "Yes." And I thought she was at the speaking event that I was just speaking at in the audience. And I was like, "Oh, you must have been at Think Better, Live Better." And she's like, "No, I was at Disney with my family." And she recognized me. She's a podcast listener. And she said she was thinking about signing up for the retreat. And she ended up signing up. Yay, Jackie, can't wait to have you. She took the second to last solo room. So I'm just saying, you guys, if you want to come and you want a solo room, it has a queen bed. It's going to be in Asheville, North Carolina in September, which is gorgeous out there. Head over to AndreaOwen.com/retreat, and any questions, feel free to reach out to us. All right, everyone, I will see you next week with a brand new episode. And remember, it's our life's journey to make ourselves better humans and our life's responsibility to make the world a better place. Bye for now.
I'd like to introduce you to the Minimalist Moms podcast. It's hard enough being a mom, and the last thing you need is stress from too much stuff and an overcrowded schedule. For too long, I lived with the mindset that bigger was better, and the more I added to my life, instead of feeling better, I felt overwhelmed. It was time for a radical new mindset. Less is more. I'm not into extremes. I didn't throw everything away. My brand of minimalism is more about adding than subtracting. Get rid of the excess to make room for what you love. In other words, it's about living life with purpose. I hope you'll listen in, and my guest and myself can inspire you to think more and do with less. The Minimalist Moms podcast, available wherever you listen to podcasts.